Well, today on this show, we are going to be looking at the effects of Africans in diaspora having a say in election in Africa. It's been one whole issue that has been coming through, and I think one of the first countries to begin that now is South Africa. We understand that on the 29th day of this month of May 2024, South Africans are going to be going to the polls. And not only South Africans in South Africa, but South Africans in the diaspora. As a matter of fact, there has been an early election all across the world, whereby a total of 78,000 plus of South Africans all over the globe have been voting. And it's a big one to know that that is, you know, a big kudos to Africa and, of course, to democracy in the continent. But the big question is, what effect is that going to have on the leadership, on the kind of you know, Africans leaders that we have. So that's going to be our major cross today on the program, Africa Discourse on Independent Television. Well, today we just have some headlines, so we'll let you say some basic headlines that we're following at this time before we hit the topic on the show today. And the first headline that we've got here is in the DRC, whereby we understand that it's been a case of coup versus coup. And for that now, we have that in the DRC, coup leader, you know, killed by Congolese. That's a big headline that we have there first. And also, too, for headline 2, we have something that has to do with South Africa, whereby the highest court in South Africa, there are Supreme Courts. Back home, we call it Supreme Court. And in South Africa, the highest court there, their own Supreme Court, has ruled that Jacob Zuma cannot, you know, contest in the next election. Now, the way the South African election is done in such a way that you have all those contesting for their federal houses, just like what we have here. We have 2 legislatures. We have the upper chamber and, of course, the lower chamber. So in South Africa, at the end of the day, they really don't have a presidential election the way we have here. But in South Africa, they do what they call the national election, what we call as the general election here. So in South Africa, they do their own national election, whereby delegates, you know, contest for various candidates, I beg your pardon, contest for various positions in the 9 provinces in South Africa. And at the end of the day, leaders emerge into the federal seats in South Africa. So it is from those leaders now that those leaders now come together, and at the end of the day, a president is now picked in South Africa. That's the way it is in South Africa. So the Supreme Court in South Africa now, that's for headline 2, just you know, said that is a big blow for Jacob Zuma as top court bars him from running in the next election. We told you also that the next election is going to be another 9 days' time. That's the precise, on the 29th day of this month of May. That's when South Africans are going to be going to the polls to cast their various representatives in the election. And it's been one but 2 stories for Jacob Zuma. Remember, former president in South Africa, how he has gone through so many allegations, the sex scandal, and of course, so many things. So reports, you know, have it that he's been interested in the #1 seat again in South Africa. So he wants to contest again. And of course, he wants to be a president one more time. But unfortunately enough for him, the Supreme Court in South Africa has ruled that Jacob Zuma cannot run for presidential election in South Africa. So I think that puts him, you know, puts all the agitations by Jacob Zuma to rest. And for headline 3 now, let's see headline 3. If you have that, we have that here too. For headline 3, we have something that has to do with, you know, migrants in Tunisia, whereby migrants in Tunisia ask for safe passage to Europe amid increasing anti-migration policies. The issue of you know, unlawful migration has been a big issue on the continent of Africa and, of course, in the Europe. So migrants in Tunisia ask for safe passage to Europe amid increasing anti-migration policies. So let's see for that now. That's headline 3. So for headline 4, we have something still on South Africa. where we read that South Africa's democracy is turning 30. But the silent crisis threatened its hard-fought gains. Remember the years of apartheid. A few weeks ago on this program, we discussed South Africa after 30 years of apartheid. Remember the struggle that, they struggled, and after all that, we saw the end of apartheid in South Africa. So the big question that analysts are still asking is that after all these fights, after all this fight against apartheid in South Africa, what are the gains? What are the things that we can show for? Well, some people have the opinion that South Africa has moved, from one political democratic dispensation to another, while some analysts have also said that South Africa as a country has really not changed. So they may have ended apartheid, but the issues in South Africa are still there. I mean, a situation whereby we still have issues that has to do with xenophobia in South Africa. We still have issues that have to do with, corruption. After, what's his name now, the president that really brought, progress to South Africa, I'm talking about Nelson Mandela. After Nelson Mandela, all the leaders that came after him, they've been fingered in one way or the other in corruption, charges. Is it Tambo Mbeki? Is it Jacob Zuma? Is it the incumbent president, Cyril Ramaphosa? It's been one story or the other concerning corruption here and there in South Africa. So for most people, it may be 30 years of ending apartheid in South Africa, but nothing has really changed for that country. Remember, South Africa is one country on the continent of Africa that other nations look up to. And outside the continent, South Africa is described as a country that has the biggest, economy. It's one country that is readily referred to as a country of reference in terms of development, in terms of economic prosperity, in terms of democratic prosperity, and in terms of what have you. But when it comes to the issue of corruption, South Africa, after 30 years of ending apartheid, we cannot say that South Africa is free, because we've had cases of corruption charges against one or two leaders that have come after Nelson Mandela. So South Africa's democracy is turning 30, but a silent crisis threatening its hard-fought gains. So that's the major headline that we're having now on the program Africa Discourse. All right, so we quickly take a short pause now so that we can bring our guest on. He's going to be joining us virtually on the program today. Remember, we said we are looking at Africans voting overseas, and of course the impact it will have on the quality of leadership that we have back home in Africa. We've got a seasoned African politics analyst talking about Dr. Peter Owaibi. He's an ex-squire and of course a member of the Edo State PDP campaign council. But we're not talking about PDP and all that party in Edo State now. We're going across overboard to look at politics across those states, across Nigeria, and of course on the continent of Africa. Dr. Peter Owaibi, very good afternoon to you. Nice to have you on the program this afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. Nice you having me on the program.
All right,
Are you able
so
to hear me?
this whole story of this whole agitation of Africans outside the continent having its say in leadership in terms of making choices, election choices, and all of that, has been an age-long thing. But kudos to know that it's beginning to come through now. As we speak now, South Africans in diaspora, overseas, outside South Africa, are already casting their votes for the elections that is going to be on the 29th. So give us an insight, how you feel about it, because we are looking at it from the point of view that perhaps that when Africans are allowed to vote outside their countries, it may have a kind of an impact on the quality of leaders that emanate in Africa. Tell us more about that.
Yes. Today, the South Africans are voting in London at the London Trafalgar Square, and which is the South African House. And they are very, very happy, very, very enthusiastic, and they mark a turn, of autocracy, where only the favorites of governments are allowed to vote. Today, the whole place is like a carnival. If you go to Trafalgar Square now, it's like a carnival because all South Africans, over 50,000 of them, if you know, are mounted in Trafalgar Square, their point of voting, to cast their vote as far as their civic responsibilities are concerned. You are not only a nation of a nation now, only when you are in the topographic region in your nation. You're also a national anywhere you are in the world. You are not seen not to be having your national identity simply because you are not in your topography, or simply because you are not on ground in the space, regional space of your country. So today is a milestone, it marks a milestone in the achievements and the struggle of the aspirants' voices that they have been struggling since over 30 years of their independence, over 60 years of their independence from the United Kingdom monarchy. And they're able to cast their vote today. It's a milestone jubilation all over South Africa and all over UK. Ireland for South Africans who are living here.
Started telling us about South Africans in the UK because that's where you reside now. Good to know. But give us an insight more, about
Yes, you
the
see,
idea, the issue of Africans outside the continent of Africa having a say in, in elections back home. I want to
you
speak
see,
on that.
yeah, you see, most independent nations, most pocket sovereign nations around the whole of Africa should be allowed to vote. But I think it's autocratic and despotic when you don't allow your citizens to vote simply because they are not stationary on ground in your land topography of your country. If you take example from very civilized countries like UK and United States, wherever their citizens are, they vote. Even the soldiers in war fronts, they vote because it's a civic responsibility. As a citizen of a country, you should be allowed that right, not privilege, that right to be able to choose who leads you. And if leaders know that you have the powers to choose whoever leads you, they would try their best to govern well. This egalitarianism of impudence about bad governance will come to erase. You don't allow people not to perform their civic rights. You refuse them performing their civic right, and you turn around to say you are their president. I mean, people in England, Africans all over the world, their presidents is their presidents back home. And whatever reasons they have, they must be allowed to exercise their rights as citizens, any part of the world they are in. Because this is civilization, this is a jet age. We cannot be living in the Paleolithic sentences of brutality of refusal for citizens to feel their country's air of belonging. And don't forget, most Africans who are in the diaspora, have their roots back home. They have their families back home. And so if they are not allowed to vote, or if by ineptness or inadequacy or by oppression, you refuse them to vote, you are a government that is almost illegal, because by all legality, all citizens of the country should be allowed to cast their votes. And in any case, the diasporans have been clustering for the opportunity to vote. And the rancors have been there all along. And here in UK, I and other Nigerians, activists or into activism, continue to speak out in vehemence that Nigerian government and other African governments should allow her citizens to vote wherever they are. I do not see this as a problem. For instance, the Nigerian government, in its erratic decisions, provided spaces all over the world for you to be able to register for your BVN. And BVN has to deal with accounting, your banking system in your country. And it was very successful. Every Nigerian anywhere in the world registered in their BVN. And if that can be done successfully, which I think is very intimidating, and non-cautious to be able to, intimidate the citizens as to finding out how much money they have, whatever, how much money they don't have. Whereas in the capitalist system or in the capitalist situation, you don't ask people how they make their money. It's not communism. It's not fascism. But that one was very possible. It went unhinged. Recently, people were trying to get their passports, from the Nigerian embassy, and they required them to submit their NIN. And all over London, they had centers for you to go, and your NIN will be processed. And so, if these things are possible, NIN, which is national, whatever it is, and the BVNs are possible anywhere in the world, we should be able to vote also anywhere in the world. It's all the same system. It's not record science. The only thing is that you have incompetency in government in dispensing easy life to the people. Unless they make it very hard for you, they don't think that they are governing you or they are leading you. So they make things very difficult. But today, they think that, they must deal with the diaspora and they must deal with the rest of the world because the whole world has become a global place where everybody is into interaction, business-wise or otherwise. So it's a great thing today in London, and a lot of Africans are also celebrating with the South Africans, for their governments having given them the opportunity to vote. And as I said earlier on, there are over 50,000 of them crowded at the Trafalgar Square in London and casting their vote. And they are supposed to be waiting there for about 6 hours on the queue. They don't mind. Since 4:30 a.m. they have been there, trying to perform their civic rights. And they feel happy about that. A country should make you happy sometimes. At least one or two policies of a country should make you happy. But we find that in Africa, all the policies are geared towards strangulating her citizens, are geared towards putting the citizens in the shackles of oppression and brutality. So this idea of allowing you to vote is an easement, which of course should be embraced by every African nation. Of course, outside the African nations that are being, governed by military coups and all the rest, those could be understandable. But even then, there's no excuse because a human being, citizen is a citizen. Today in South Africa, they have over 50,000 persons voting, and of course, all they need is their green card, identity card, which every Nigerian has. Every other country have the identity cards. They don't even need a passport, just an identity card you need, and then you go there to vote. You don't need, there are no requirements anymore for your international passport. And so, but Africans should come off this archaic system, stone age of governance. The world is moving on. You must be able to get up and move on with the world. We don't expect government strangulation of our citizens all the time.
The video, because the information technology has gone viral. I mean, we can see even the UK, how South Africans in the UK voted. We also have that video here, so we're going to be letting our viewers see as the program progresses. Now, quickly, because we're going to be taking a short break very shortly. Now, Dr. YB, quickly tell us, because the issue now is not just, I know it's very nostalgic. It's natural to want to have a say in what is happening back home. But we are looking at the ability of Nigerians, Africans outside the continent of, Africa, knowing these candidates. I mean, you are not here, you really don't know them, you don't know what they've done and what they are capable of doing and all that and all that. So don't you think that's an issue? Because that's what some analysts are saying.
You see, that again is parochial. You don't want to tell me if I know who I want to vote for or who I don't want to vote for. The blind people vote, the deaf people vote, in civilized country. You don't even want to hear anything, just have a mindset. The fact that you are dumb does not mean you don't have something in your mind you want to say. The fact that you are blind does not know you don't know what's going around you or what's going on around you. It's none of their business if you're able to equate properly who you want to vote for or who you don't want to vote for by way of advocacy for vote. In any case, whatever the politicians are saying, which they think you should hear, it's all bunkum, it's all lies. They lie about everything, they promise everything, and they don't carry out anything they promise. So why do you even need to hear them? you don't need to hear their lies. So that argument don't hold in any form of sequence. You see, they should just allow you exercise your rights as a citizen. They don't have to tell you, oh, you didn't hear the campaign. You rightly said just now that the world is a global village in terms of technology. So we can listen to their campaigns here. There's nothing that happens in Nigeria that we don't hear in London here in less than 5 minutes. Anything, all the deaths, killings, all the hike in petrol prices, all the hike in food prices, all the hike in all the devaluation of our naira and everything. What else do you want to hear? We hear it all. And for them to say we're not on ground, what ground? What other ground you want to be on? Even the people in Nigeria, they don't meet these people physically because the politicians go about with policemen and armored cars and bulletproof cars. So you don't really get to meet them. You don't see them. You phone them, they won't answer your calls. So that argument don't carry any weight.
As we speak now, a total of 78,092 South Africans in UK alone, have voting rights away. And we also understand that in a total of about 111 foreign missions across the world. So you see that Africans outside the shores of Africa are so enthusiastic in what is going on. All right, so let's see that video because Dr. YB, gave us a first-hand information a while ago on how South Africans in UK alone, how they voted. All right, so these are some South Africans now. I think this has to do with one or two interviews after they casted their votes in the UK. South Africans in the UK allowing their votes and taking steps on how they feel. And of course, like what we said, that it's very nostalgic now, very, very nostalgic. You want to have a say in what is going on in your country. So little wonder if other nations in Africa will replicate this. We understand that at a time, the bill was being sponsored, was being talked about, in the Federal Assembly, National Assembly in Nigeria. Whereby, because it's not just something that can happen without some form of legislation. If it has to be in Nigeria here, there has to be a bill to that effect. Of course, the bill will have to go through some reading, and the president, the National Assembly, will have to, pass it into law and all that. And the president also has to, accede to it before it can become a law. So that's their situation. All right, so South Africans now in the UK, expressing themselves after they have voted, in the general elections. I told you a while ago that the election actually is going to be on the 29th of May. That's another 9 days' time. And but the situation is that South Africans outside their country are already taking the lead, a form of kind of an early election. You may want to call it, whereby different candidates are, contesting, and of course, voters are allowed to make their choice into who will be their candidate. Well, in South Africa, they really don't have a presidential election as we have here. At the end of the day, when they have their members in their National Assembly, it is from that National Assembly that members will now vote on who will be the leader, and who eventually becomes the leader of that National Assembly becomes the president. That was the case with Cyril Ramaphosa as he emerged as a president, and also the case with Jacob Zuma as he emerged as the president. Thabo Mbeki also had to pass through that. Even Nelson Mandela also had to pass through that. But for Jacob Zuma, we understand that he cannot. The Supreme Court in South Africa just ruled that Jacob Zuma cannot, participate in any federal election anymore. So that is the situation. All right, so let's come back to Live on Set now, where we have Dr. Peter Owaibi right there. Dr. Peter Owaibi, the videos, thank you so much. You give us the first-hand information, but just like what I told you, that we also have those videos here. We also got them, and we saw how South Africans reacted. Now, let's situate the whole thing back to Nigeria now. In Nigeria, there is no doubt that Nigerians outside the country, like you, I mean, you are from Edo State here, from Esan Northeast, from Uromi to be precise. I know that you want to participate in the next election. Take, for example, the Edo State governorship election. That's beautiful November. But you cannot do that because you don't have the law that will enable you to do that. Now, do you want to make some form of support for such a law to be in place, in your country?
Yes, it's very, very important. I am, an extremely loyalist patriot. I regard my country as very sacrosanct in my heart, and the rest of my family, we regard Nigeria as very sacrosanct. But we find that there's a lot of exodus of Nigerians based on some certain reasons, which the Nigerian government is aware. Don't forget, government is supposed to act as a stimulus to seek their nationals down in their country. And if the government, is experiencing exodus of expertise, best brains, Japan away from Nigeria, and they are not doing anything about it apart from trying to use the whip to whip human beings who are supposed to have their own human rights freedoms. It does not work out that way. Nigerians or Nigerian leaders have the tenacity, have the boldness and audacious tenacity to be able to withhold Nigerians back to subdued emotional traumas. They take you away from your normal comfort zones and place you into sufferings. A country like that, or leadership, headed by leaders of extreme, bias, inimic malice against the people, is difficult to say things that will create changes, positive changes. I mean, Nigerians should go and, have a feel of the rest of the world where, things are growing based on inclusiveness, it's inclusiveness. Put your nationals as part of you. Create social amenities across board. The fear of the diasporans coming back home is based on, one, security. The country is aware of this. What is the big deal about tackling the security problem in Nigeria? The big deal about tackling the security problem in Nigeria is because most of these, our fraudulent, leaders and politicians carry about their own securities that our taxpayers' money maintain. Only very few of them are accessible to it. You see one politician, after stealing all the monies from the treasury, carries over 10 security personnel to be guiding him and guiding the money, so that you cannot get near him and he's stealing goods. if I put it that way. Meanwhile, the security is sustained by our tax payments, but then it's usurped by one very corrupt man. And so the corruption in Nigeria is stings, and it's so gutted, and it's so much stench that must be, addressed. For instance, in Edo State has witnessed one of the best government of all times, and I can say that with all great strength, of all of my bones, all of my flesh. Because, for instance, Governor Obaseki has done so extremely well, so incredibly well, that he has no comparison within a million miles away. And he's also now, by way of egalitarian, equitarious fairness, has decided, since Edo State is standing on three paws, Edo North, Edo Central, and Edo South, to rotate or give a chance or give the benefit of governance to Edo Central, who have not known government corridors in the last 24 years. It's all been between, so he has come in that way, and he has come with one of the best candidates here in the person of Ighodalo, in the person of Dr. Ighodalo, another celebrated, persons or personality with the highest might of mental discernment into audacious way of governance. I mean, all his resumes are there to prove it. He has done well in the private sector, and he is going to do well in the public sector. And his focus is on continuity on what Governor Obaseki have achieved. And what Governor Obaseki has achieved is unquantifiable. If you start to, action and discuss on the achievement of Governor Obaseki, between myself and yourself, we might be here till after the elections of South Africa in Trafalgar Square. But the truth is, the people that are grumbling, you cannot wish it away. There are a lot of people grumbling in Nigeria, in Edo State, a few people. And those few people are dissidents of reality and selfish persons who think that the money of Edo State should be given to them in mighty Ghana bags. But Obaseki says, no, that is not the point. Obaseki has used over 1.7 billion to build a military center in a hub. That money given another president or another governor will spread the money around as largesse to all these people who are jobless, who call themselves political leaders. So, how are you a political leader? Anyway, let's be very definite. You don't tell anybody who to vote for. What makes you a political leader is that they give you money. You receive money. And then it's okay, go to Uromi, Dr. Wabi, go and be distributing that money that he gave to me to go and distribute. When I see that in my house in Uromi, which I've donated to PDP now for Asulime's campaign, when I sit down there, everybody will come to me and say, okay,
Dr. Wabi, let's come off, because we don't campaign with this program.
Okay.
I understand there's no doubt that you feel so much, good disposition towards Governor Godwin Obaseki. There's no doubt about that. But we must also accept, even on this program, that some other persons feel differently about Governor Godwin Obaseki and even about the candidate that he supported. So that one side. So let's stay on the program and on the topic.
Yes.
Now, away from that now, we are looking at the quality of leaders, that emerge in Africa, in our elections and all that. And of course, if at the end of the day, if Africans in diaspora are allowed to vote, whether it's going to have a kind of a direct impact on the kind of leaders that emerge. That's what we are looking at now. Now, take for example, in the last election that we had in Nigeria, a lot of persons actually thought, I think before that election, we saw whereby there was a call for Nigerians in diaspora to be allowed to vote.
That's correct.
Some other persons were of the opinion that the results will not count. Against the backdrop also that even back at home, we saw that as an issue. A lot of persons are still of the opinion that the result did not actually count. Why some say that the result counted. So if at the end of the day we are having Africans in diaspora voting, will the result count? What is, the trust that the result will count? I mean, we are talking about Africa now with our complex nature, our complexity, as a continent.
Yes, you see, the itinerary of life includes, advancement, ambulatory advancement into being sufficiently trustworthy. And then without trust, you don't have a good society. If we trust and believe that INEC is there to be acting across borders, the unbiased umpire, and then so shall it be. But if the INEC itself on which we place our trust on becomes so easily compromised, and then so the trust fails. And if that is the case, you know, a lot of people will not feel too happy to cast their vote. If you remember, during Obasanjo's tenure, during his second re-election in Benin last time, I came into Benin just to make sure I cast my vote and so support him. We came in with international observers. We personally requested international observers for I think 3 countries, 3 continents actually, and they obliged, and it helped the embassies to issue communique and saying that any electionary malpractices, the corporates' visas will be cancelled, and some of their international investments will also be seized. And that helped enormously that Obasanjo's vote then counted and he won the election, even though Buhari, who was in a different party and he was the president, and even the head of that party, the chairman of that party, although from Edo State, could not really use any form of rigging to rig that election. So everybody's vote counted, and everybody was very, very happy. You can imagine the sadness that could have been experienced in the last election, 2023, when in all the tsunami enthusiasm was down by the rigging expertise and ability of some of these, governmental institutions, these parastatals, governmental parastatals, like INEC. INEC was extremely corrupt, very unrepentantly corrupt.
Yeah, Dr. Wybe, you cannot say so. Yeah.
Saw it on video. We saw it on video when they were being beaten, and then when they were changing numbers, when they were stealing ballot papers and all. We saw it. It's not me saying it. It's what I see, I talk about. If I cannot talk about what I see, and I see when I'm dead, I'll be able to talk about what I don't see. So we saw those things, and they were not addressed. Nobody, Nigeria is like a quagmatic nation of 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 wicked souls. How can you grow when right now I hear that the cup of gari is about 2,000 naira?
With
How
the
are you
kind
going to
of
grow?
words we use now, you cannot say Nigeria a quagmatic nation of wicked souls. I mean, all Nigerians are not. I mean, you are a Nigerian,
Of
so if you
wicked,
say so, it means that you are
of
wicked
wicked
too.
leaders, of wicked leaders, of wicked leaders.
No,
The
why
leaders are
don't you
very
say some? Let's
insensitive.
say some wicked leaders.
Yes, okay, yes. So thank you for editing my statement. It's okay, but you know what I mean. I mean, I'm also Nigerian and everything. How can you expect a country like Nigeria, where you have in-house production of cars by one of the innocent motors, we are refusing to patronize it, but the legislators, the elected legislators, are clamoring for SUV jeeps from the overseas, bulletproof and all. You know how much dollar that one is going to take us? Why are we not even taking time to talk to our leaders? If we don't talk to our leaders, don't our leaders have patriotic sensibility in them? Must they continue to strangulate and disallow the people of Nigeria to breathe? Recently, again, very disturbing news came up that you are spending 90 billion naira for Hajj, and that kind of money you are enriching the economy of another country at the detriment of your own economy. Why do you take such policies? Why? If you don't go to Hajj, so what? If you want to go to Hajj, why can't you go by yourself? must government bring out 90 billion for ordinarily about 100 people to spend about 1 billion each to go to Hajj? I mean, this is a country of sadistic souls. You cannot run away from it. That's why, it's a shame. Nigeria, that people used to clamor as one of the best nations of the world. Those days when we went to university here in the UK, we got appointment after our education from the Nigerian embassy. And they used to give us money. They used to give us student grants in UK as well, even though we were on scholarship. Why
Yeah,
did all
Dr.
those things
Wybie,
vanish?
one question before we let you go this afternoon. Now, let's look at this whole thing. I mean, this idea of some of these, nations that Africans run to. During elections, they give the stern warning that election riggers will be bad from, entry, their country. I mean, U.S. has done that over time. The UK, where you are now, has done that over time. Even France has done that over time. But that seems to be only during election. I mean, after election, we do not hear anything from these countries anymore. Whether election riggers, even when some XYZ persons mention that they rigged election and all that, we don't hear anything from this country anymore. What is going on?
We don't hear anything from these countries anymore because you see, sometimes the country, they do not want to inflame by way of combusting the nation. They know the sensitivity of the nation when the nations feel shortchanged. So when they see it, that the nationals themselves are not crying loud, they don't want to be the ones to cry more than the bereaved. But if you ever go on the streets in anger by way of protestation, in dislike of the results you have received from the electoral body or whatever they are, they will come and join you. But they will not start it. They will not inflame the sensitivity of the persons. If the Nigerians, you see, there's one thing, if the Nigerians feel comfortable in the shackles of in the shackles of slavery chains, then it's okay. Let them be happy in those slavery chains. But if you feel uncomfortable in being fettered in the shackles of slavery, then somebody else will help you to try and remove the chains from your ankles. Not when you feel comfortable, you are dancing, singing happily. When anybody even wants to remove the chain, say, no, it's okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. Don't you know I'm happy to be a slave? I'm fine. So they leave you to your fate. That is what happens. Otherwise, they tell the world that the elections were not free and fair. They say it. When the ones that came from South Africa in 2020, they said it's not free. Over 9 ex-presidents. We are observers of that 2023 election. The whole world saw it. But the president, in his defiance, you know, refused himself to allow, denied the victors of their victories, and carried on, as if to say he's the owner of Nigeria. Nobody
No,
owns
you
Nigeria.
can't,
We own
Dr.
Nigeria.
YB, you cannot also say so. You cannot also say so. I mean, we're talking about our president, whether we like it or not, he's been sworn in. And of course, we saw and we heard what happened after that election. The case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled on that matter, and so be it. So we cannot say that, Dr. YB. Anyway, because of time, I want to say a very big thank you, Dr. YB, because I know that you have to go to work today. I want to express our profound gratitude to you for obliging us
I'm
this time
retired.
of yours from Independent Television in Benin City, Dr. YB.
Thank you very much. You are such a wonderful host, and
All right,
I'm
thank you
happy to
so
have
much.
been your guest.
And please tell the South Africans in UK to ensure that they vote rightly. Maybe sometime Nigerians will be voting too in the UK.
Yeah, but even Ghana and Morocco have already passed a legislative law that they can vote also from the diaspora.
Okay,
Ghana and Morocco,
okay.
yes, they're already on the
That's
law,
good.
and Kenya also. So we don't know what other countries can follow. Nigeria is always the last to do good things, but the first to do something that will bite the people deep in their flesh. Any
All right,
good
thank you, Dr.
things
YB.
in
Thank
Nigeria
you
is
so
foreign
much,
to us.
Dr.
Thank you
Peter
very much.
YB, Esquire. And of course, a member of the Edo State PDP Campaign Council. We are not talking about that though. But also one man that is so interested in African politics back home, and whenever he's invited to talk about issues on the continent of Africa, he does not deny the opportunity. We'll say a very big thank you to Dr. Peter Owaibi. Well, this is where we end the show today, Africa Discourse on Independent Television. My name is Evan Sunokugi. Until same time next week, goodbye and God bless you.